last week we talked about Hammernell and about how Jornaru and a bunch of people, a bunch of the Abyssal, wanted to reintegrate Achilleos into outside. So they wanted to free him, and they wanted to make a stand and to get the glory days back. And the glory days meaning the fun times of killing people and making them go insane and mad, because that's the greatest thing ever. So today we're talking about the Abyssal cult, giving a little bit more of a backstory, or not explanation, but a bit more flesh to the Abyssal cult itself. So, who are the Abyssal cult? Now, we have, in this picture that I have on the screen on the left, we have a Tide Lord on the right, and then on the left is, what's his name? He's probably listed here. No? Faceless Man, the Abyssal cult, rank, na 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 na. Mm-hmm. Isn't he? It's like Calyx. I think that's his name. This guy on the left. I think his name is Calyx. Um, they are in the in the dungeon. Hey, in this dungeon that I'm going to name, it is in not Foul Cascade. Darkening? No, not Darkening Deeps. Abyssal Precipice. There you go. In the dungeon, the Abyssal Precipice, you get a little bit more of a backstory about the Abyssal and how they're going to revive, or not revive, but how they're going to free Achilleos from his bonds. And it's great. No, it is an actually great dungeon. The end boss is pretty tough, and he has a pretty long RPG moment before you get to fight him, but it tells you a little bit more about who he is and what he's doing. In any case, let's go back to whoa that shot. Sorry, let's go back to that shot. Okay. So, the Abyssal Cult. While most would run or cower in untold fear when confronted with horrendous nightmarish spawn, meaning people like Calyx, the guy on the left, right? That come crawling up with the tides or burst forth out of rifts to wash over villages, dragging off innocent villagers without a trace, there are those few who stop and listen. They hear the faint sounds, the soft whispering of an almost heard voice beneath the crashing of the waves, the growls of the profane monsters, whoops, the roaring of the rift spawn. They hear a strange, familiar, yet unfamiliar song, something they can almost understand if they but listen a little harder, come a little closer. These are the first of the Abyssal, men and women of Telara who turned from their beliefs and the safety of their homes to dedicate themselves to Achilleos, dragon god of the plane of water, for the promise of understanding and unlocking the deep mysteries and darkest secrets of the world has to offer. Now, we talked about this last week. Achilleos is not an actual dragon, but back in vanilla days, we didn't know this. So this is, I think this is text that I took from directly from the Rift website, or Rift, sorry, or the Rift uh, lore background. And back then they did not have this bit of retcon um, where Achilleos ends up not actually being a dragon. He is a replacement for the dragon of ice called Iskinra. And sorry. So the dragon of ice Iskinra was locked in the prison of the gods, and you. in Nightmare Tide, you go into this prison and you fight a Skinra at some point. But in this case, Achilleos, he was basically, we don't quite know the backstory of how he became a dragon, or he became a dragon. He joined the dragons in their quest to destroy the worlds that they would visit. But apart from that, like, we don't know how he was approached, if he approached them, if he decided to make a deal with some of them to protect himself so he could, you know, get something out of this deal that he did. We don't know. We don't know anything about that part of the story where he joins the dragons. He is actually an Akvan, which we learn a lot more about in Nightmare Tide. An Akvan is basically a nightmare that Telarans dream up in the dream world. Yeah, fun times. But he in that case, he might be from the plane of water, but um, not an actual dragon from the plane of water. That's the distinction. Um, Now, about the Abyssal. The Abyssal are the mad followers of the mad Achilleos, who was driven insane eons ago. So, Akvan, they're not necessarily mad to begin with. They are just, big ass creatures from people's nightmares, created by people's nightmares. How he became insane, I mean, maybe because he got hungry for more power. Because the Akvan are pretty powerful to begin with, but Achilles possibly became the strongest out of them. Although the strongest out of them is actually Martradam. Martradam? Wait, I don't know how to say it. But Martradam is like the strongest out of the dragons. Sorry, of the Akvan. And it is hang on, I think it's an Achilleos looking Akvan. I'm not sure. In any case, the Abyssal are the mad followers of the mad Achilleos, who was driven insane eons ago. They are the hoarders of all knowledge, dark and twisted, always seeking answers to hideous and profane secrets. Um, they form cabals of insane priests and tide lords, claiming to hold the promise of the world's knowledge, if only the unenlightened would look far enough and deep enough into the crushing deep of the abyss that Achilleos represents. Let me just do this. Or no, 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 never mind. They are a tight knit, extremely secular cult made up of different cabals or cells within the cult. Each cell is headed by a Tide Lord who conducts the business and direction of each cell differently from the others. So, like I said last week, like the Tide Lords, they are decentralized. It's a decentralized power where the Tide Lords have each cabal. They do whatever the hell they want with it. Yes, they report to the center person, the leader of the cult, but they don't necessarily, they have some freedom of action. So if, like, say for example, they're told like, oh, you need to go to this place, you need to um control this place. So the Tide Lords are just going to be like, yeah, fuck that, I'm just going to kill everybody. They can do whatever the fuck they want out of this decentralized power force. Um, Even though they are all part of a whole and acting towards an overall common goal, each cabal has its own separate goals and desires as well, with each Tide Lord seeking his or her own knowledge and secrets of the dark. So, yes, there's the whole like, you can kill civilians or you can, uh, you know, induct them. You can use them as bait, not bait. So you can use them as, sacrifices to the Water Lord. I don't know. But on top of that, they can also be like, oh, hey, I want to know about this secret power, this secret of the world. They don't have to report that want. They don't have to report that they want to know about this. Um, the only the only thing they had the only thing uh, that they all have in common is that they all want power. They all want knowledge. So in that case, they're just like, oh hey, I'm just gonna screw this other cabal and be like, oh hey, I want this power that they want as well, but I'm gonna go a different way around to get this secret power or secret knowledge. So it's pretty, like I said, it's decentralized. It's not a federation where they all have to report everything that they're doing. It's definitely quite a strange type of power, quite a strange type of organization, I should say. And thus, the Abyssal are the hardest to discover and unearth among the citizens of Telara, since they are very good at pretending to be ordinary, innocent Telarans. They are adept at infiltrating a village and replacing the villagers with their own followers, converting and killing where it's needed in order to accomplish their goals. They are swift to violence, unpredictable, and are powerful casters. They act more for their own desire for power and profane knowledge rather than because of a sound plan of attack or an organized battle strategy. They don't really do battle. They are pretty good casters, like it says here. They are pretty good. They're pretty unpredictable. They're pretty good at violence. They're pretty good at warring, I guess. But they don't have strategies that they all communicate together. So the cabals, they kind of just act on their own orders. Um, and like I said, like it shows here, like they infiltrate. As to like looking like villagers and stuff like that, I kind of disagree because the fact is like when they're inducted, uh when they're taken in as members of the cabal, they they have their faces taken away from them. So I find that hard to believe that they would, replace the villagers with their own followers or infiltrating a village. I find that hard to believe because people like, I mean, if somebody someday shows up with a mask or with a really fucked up face, I don't know how I would react, but I'd be like, hey, you're not who you say you are. In any case, the leader of the Abyssal cult, Tide Lord Jornaru, can be found plotting against the Ascended in Abyssal Precipice and in Hammernell Fortress, striving always to free his lord and master, the great Achilleos. If I remember correctly, this man on the right is Jornaru. You also find him in Hammernell. He is part of the last. Is he at the last fight? I don't remember. Let me find out. Rift, Hammernell, bosses, or raid guide. Yeah, let's do that. Hammernell raid guide. Raid Bible. Um, Jornaru. Yeah, so he is. Drowned Hall. Oh, that's Drowned Hell. Never mind. So, yeah, I don't see Jornaru. So if I remember correctly, Jornaru is part of the Achilleos fight. He is like there's Achilleos and you're trying to like kill Jornaru at the same time, if I remember correctly. Another famous member of the Abyssal is the Faceless Man, who is now the leader of the Unseen. In Meridian, a group of assassins and spies in Meridian who protect the Defiant secrets and work to bring information to and from the Defiant headquarters in order to best deal with the threats to Telara. Um, yeah, so I talked about this last week when I was talking about Habernell, the Faceless Man, who is a very important figure in Meridian. He was once a member of the Abyssal. Meridian was actually an Abyssal fortress. It was a big library of knowledge, and he was the Tide Lord that had control of Meridian, yeah, the Abyssal Fortress. Now, as to whether some people like there's two stories to how Meridian came to be. Some people say that Meridian was the fortress, like the construction itself, the architecture that we see now in game. Some people say that, or some people believe that that Meridian was the library of the Abyssal that the Faceless Man ran, and there's contradicting information that actually says that Meridian was not built. They built it after the Abyssal were driven out by the Faceless Man. So, in any case, the Faceless Man was a traitor, is a traitor to the Abyssal. He basically used rune magic to lock out the elementals that once roamed the halls, or once roamed the Abyssal Fortress there. Like I said, I don't know for sure if it was. I just spat. I don't know for sure if Meridian was the construction that we know of today. I would think so, because they talk about a fountain of knowledge, a fount of knowledge. Sorry, not a fountain. So as a library and stuff like that, a library uh, is a pretty good place to store knowledge. So I would be led to believe that Meridian was actually the construction we know of today, back when it was run by the Abyssal, run by the Faceless Man. In any case, so he now works as the leader of the Unseen, who is I mean, it's pretty much in line with what he used to do back then, because it's all about, protecting. However, it's about protecting secrets, not getting secrets. So yeah, he protects the defined secrets and works to bring information to and from other outposts and headquarters. So all the teleportation places that we that we discover as Defiance. Um, so yeah, it's like it's basically a volt. I forget what it's called in English, but volte-face. Like it's basically like he used to desecrate the information from Telara, but now he's like protecting it. It's pretty. It's a turn around basically. Um, the Faceless Man was once a Tide Lord of an abyssal cult that controlled areas of Free March before he betrayed his Dark Master to the Defiant. Uh, why he did that? There is when you do there is an abyssal storyline. Now storylines are the quest lines that you pick up that the background of the text is yellow. So when you pick up the abyssal storyline, which is yellow, it takes you all around, pretty much all around to Lara, or the Mythosia. Sorry, it takes you all around pretty much Mythosia and makes you discover the Faceless Man's story. Now there isn't a lot that we discover, but we do discover like who his mother was. We discover that he was terrified. Like he joined the Abyssal pretty much on a whim. He kind of wanted to be more powerful. Like that's pretty much the driving force behind why he joined in the first place. And it turns out that he wanted to gain more knowledge, be more powerful, and then kind of realize the error of his ways. And he started to not resent, but be afraid of what he did. And so that's why, like, even when he was doing his ritual, he had to he had to use um, all the power that his brain possessed to hide his true feelings about the ritual. Because when you become a Tide Lord, there's like a ritual where you like Achilleos like penetrates your brain and starts to probe in and starts to like give you a fuck ton of knowledge, and also tries to gain some of your knowledge. So the Faceless Man, when he was not inducted, when he was made a Tide Lord, he had to use all the power that he possessed to hide all of that. all of that fear, all of those doubts, all of that res- resentment, I guess, all of that, uh, the losses that he felt, he had to hide that from Achilles himself. And so that's to say, like, the Faceless Man is very powerful. We just don't realize it too much because he's like, hey, he's a quest giver, woo. But he's actually a very important story to Telara's lore, at least the Mythosia lore, because he's one of the driving characters in the Mythosia lore, and he's very important to the Defiance because he's the one who basically allowed us in into Meridian. The Abyssal cult are all quite insane, driven mad by their burning desire to unearth the dark secrets of the world. To try to understand the innermost workings of the Abyssal is to court madness yourself. Um, and I think that's why you have to think of the Faceless Man as a very very in control man, because he realized the error of his ways, and he basically defied madness. uh, well, literally, because he defied Achilles during his ritual, but he defied madness by basically renouncing his ways eventually. No culture or race is exempt from these mad cultists who come from all manner of places and status. So they can be highborn, or they could be, the poorest of the poor. Could be a fisherman, or it could be a courtesan. They don't care who you are. They're only going to try to either get your knowledge and kill you, or get your knowledge and induct you. So, compared to the other cults and followers of the Bloodstorm gods, the Abyssal contained the most scholars, magi, academics, and professors of the arcane arts. Um, because these people are very interested in gaining more knowledge, so it's only natural for them to be to be lured into the fold. Rank among the Abyssal is dependent. Oh yeah, so that's something else I wanted to talk about. Like when it says like no culture or race is exempt from all manner. They come from all manner of place and status. Like your Tide Lord, the highest ranking official in your cabal, your commander in your cabal. Your Tide Lord could be somebody super poor that you used to make fun of as a highborn. So you could be a highborn, and then your Tide Lord is like comes from a very poor family. It doesn't matter to the Abyssal. So, rank among the Abyssal is dependent upon one's individual knowledge, power, and level of insanity, rather than status in Telara. So, the people, say for example, one of the strongest magi, one of the strongest professors of the arcane arts, these I would be led to think that the scholars, the magi, the academics, and professors, I would be led to believe that those people would be probably the highest ranking Tide Lords. We don't know what the Faceless Man was before. We don't know what kind of person he was before. All we know is that he comes from Iron Pine Peaks. That's pretty much all we know. The Tide Lord leaders are all recognizable by the distinctive horned helmets that cover their faces. Like this, for example, on the right, the man on the right, the Tide Lord Jornaru. Basically, that's the Faceless Man as well. It uses the same model, but basically that horned helmet represents your Tide Lord or Tide Lady. This is on the picture here. This would be just one of the regular Abyssal. Um, yeah, the helmets hide the disfigurement they voluntarily undergo in order to better see the deeper knowledge that Achilles grants them. I think I touched upon that last week when I talked about the Faceless Man and his not induction, but his ritual to become a Tide Lord. Like I said, today what I said a couple minutes ago when I said, like, there's this ritual where you are face to face with Achilleos, and he probes into you and offers you at the same time. He offers you knowledge, but he also probes into your knowledge. Um, so yeah, they voluntarily undergo a disfigurement, so their face is taken off, and that's why they're called faceless. Um, so it's kind of like um I'm gonna make a little bit of a tangent with WoW, but it's kind of like Illidan, where his eyes are burned out by Fel, by Sargeras, where now that he becomes a demon hunter, he sees the demons hiding in whatever warped reality. So it's kind of the same situation where the Tide Lords are better able to see what's out there. And so, kind of like Demon Hunters, where they're able to see reality as it is instead of just seeing what warped reality is shown to you. The ritual to become a Tide Lord is an arduous task that only the most faithful, the most faithful and the most insane undergo. It's very interesting to note, like the faceless man, when he underwent that ritual, that disfigurement. Yes, he does not have a face anymore, but how insane did he have to appear? Because the truth is, he realized before his ritual that this cult was fucking crazy, and he wanted out already. He was kind of trying to figure out, like, how am I gonna fuck this cult? So how faithful, like, how much brain power do you have to hide the fact that you're actually not faithful and deep inside? How in like you're not actually completely insane because you've got like a spark of fucking like reality check saying like what the fuck is going on? Um yeah. So the faceless man is like one of the strongest people that this game has ever known. We just never saw that really in game except in that storyline and in this text here that I'm reading to you. They give up their names, their memories, their very identities to better serve Achilleos. So that's why they don't have a face. So to show that they're all part of the same cult, to kind of become one with Achilleos, I suppose. Um, Achilleos, who promises greater arcane and eldritch knowledge in return for such devotion. Like I said, he probes into you, but he also offers a lot of knowledge. And that knowledge actually drives you even more insane. You might already be insane, you might already be fucking faithful, but uh, he could drive you even more insane by offering all that knowledge. And it's knowledge from different worlds that he invaded with the other dragons. It's knowledge from all the inhabitants that he's gotten knowledge from. So it's a fucking crashing wave. It's a tsunami of information that's crashing into you when he does that ritual to make you a Tide Lord. He delights in the madness of others, and the more insane, the better. Sorry. In return, the abyssal cultists gain mad genius and knowledge best left forgotten in the depths. The more knowledge they gain, the further they fall into insanity. And thus, the Abyssal have the reputation of being the most secretive, but also the most incomprehensible dragon cult. The truth is, like I said, they are decentralized. The Tide Lords have pretty much free reign over whatever knowledge they're going to go seek. The only thing that links them together is like they want power. They want knowledge. Sorry. Um, Their tomes and scrolls, if found by an unsuspecting person, can lead to madness and death just as easily as enlightenment of power, or both. If I remember correctly, I think there is a quest somewhere in Meridian, probably during the Abyssal quest line, that kind of wants you to go and search for some information in the Library of Meridian. And that's where you kind of figure out, like, oh, hey, this information could drive you insane. They seek neither treasure, wealth, or fame, nor power for its own sake. Like I've said the word power a couple times, but it's more about the brain power that that they go for. Um, they only wish to learn everything that the dark abyss can teach them and beyond, to gain the secret powers of the hidden arts. So to gain more arcane power is to gain knowledge, because arcane power is all about knowledge, right? The one uniting force that drives the Abyssal, other than the desire for knowledge, is the desire to free Achilles from his watery prison in Hammernell, where he lays dreaming beneath Hammernell Fortress. Many nests of the cult have apparently wormed their way into the outskirts of Telaran society, setting up shop in rural villages and disguising themselves as professors of arcane knowledge or traveling scholars. And this example behind in the background is one of them. Like, they infiltrated this dock there, this village behind them as well. They infiltrated this village and kind of started to set up shop and to try to gain some more knowledge about Meridian, probably trying to retake Meridian a little bit because it's held by Defiance now. Um, da 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 da. They undermine the efforts of the Ascended, convert others to their cause, and always seek ways of freeing Achilles. They readily interact with and ally with the rift spawn that comes through the rifts, summoning deep ones, fathom lords, profane many-eyed monsters, and other planar ilk to do their bidding to guard their secrets. Um, yeah, especially in the area of well, especially in Free March. In Free March, there's a lot of rift tears, and a lot of them turn out to become uh, if people don't force rifts to appear. Say for example, if you have like the uh, the fire rift lure, for example, if you don't use rift lures, a lot of times the rifts that will show up will actually be water rifts, and so you'll see like a lot of the deep ones, which are like the fishy looking dudes. The fathom lords are I don't remember what they are. I think they're like pretty much tide lords, but pretty much probably beneath them. Profane many-eyed monsters, like basically fishy type guys, um, to do their bidding. The Abyssal are the ultimate Lovecraftian model and rift. That is very true, with themes of madness, desire, knowledge, unfathomable secrets, insanity, cabals of arcane practitioners, and themes of water, nightmares, tides, darkness, and the abyss. I think in this case, like Achilles would be very much likened to, say, I don't really know too much about Lovecraft, but I mean, I do play WoW, so I can tell you, like, Achilles would be likened, I guess, to N'Zoth, who is the old god in WoW, who is buried very, very deep in water. So this N'Zoth is very much about like knowledge and well, there are all the old gods are pretty much about knowledge, but N'Zoth is all about like watery depths and a lot of darkness, the abyss, a bit of mad. I mean, they're all about madness, really, but knowledge, I would say as well. I mean, Ashara, who is the night elf, not night elf, sorry. Yeah, she is a night elf. Sorry, she is a night elf. Ashara, who decided to kind of uh, gain more knowledge. She asked Sargeras to help her, um, or not help her, but she decided to make a deal with Sargeras to like um, to fuck up uh, to fuck up their own race so that she would gain more knowledge, even though they invaded her her world. She was all about like she didn't care if they were invading. She just wanted to gain some more knowledge. And then things turned out that Sargeras was driven away, and so she like the sundering happened, and then she was driven to the depths, and then became a Naga. And it's pretty much Nazoth, I'd say, who turned her into a Naga. Anyways, despite their evident insanity and warped minds, don't underestimate the Abyssal cult and its insane leaders, because the clarity that madness brings can be just as effective and deadly as a sound battle strategy. This basically means like sometimes numbers matter more than the strategy itself. Kind of like in StarCraft with the Zerg, you know, sometimes it's better to have more. It's better to be. It's better to just act on impulse. If you have the numbers, if you have the madness, then just to think about strategy all the time and lose time, waste time. Anyways, then we have a little bit of a story that I pulled out from another page. Um, when the Bloodstorm arrived on Telara, and Achilles' spawn hauled themselves up from the seas, those mortals who were not dragged under the waves ran for their lives. Only one young scholar would not flee. Ah, yeah. So this is the story um, of the first leader of the Abyssal. Um, Only one young scholar would not flee, for under the hideous gibbering and piteous screams, she heard someone singing a song of infinite knowledge. And this is a pretty repetitive a pretty repetitive theme with regards to Achilles. It's always about like singing a song, like a very alluring song, kind of like mermaids or sirens, I'd say. Sorry. So he would sound like a siren, I guess, to people, and that's like very alluring to a lot of, knowledge hungry people. So he is a siren. Stealing a boat, she rowed far out to sea, where miles long monsters churned the waters with their writhing. She tied a rock to her legs and dove overboard. The weight dragged her into the crushing deeps, closer and closer to the song. In agony she shut her eyes, and when they opened again she looked upon the singer. Achilles gave her but a portion of the dread secrets he kept, and under their weight her mind snapped. Her face was worn smooth, and her name vanished from memory. She became the first leader of the Abyssal. Like her, some inquisitive souls refuse to control their thirst for knowledge, seeking answers to questions best left unasked. Others simply seek arcane power, even if they must drag it from the darkness. Only when they face Achilles himself do they learn that such knowledge and power drove him beyond madness eons ago, and he is only too happy to lead them in the same direction. All the dragon cults are horrific, but the Abyssal are the most disturbing. Hello. Quests for gold, destruction, or even power over the dead make sense in a villainous sort of way, but the students of Achilles defy reason. They chuckle quietly outside your window at night, moving into the shadows when you come to look. They paint hideous symbols in blood upon the walls of locked rooms, or upon the faces of sleeping children. The Abyssal are not tightly organized like the Endless Court or Golden Maw, but operate in independent cells. Individual Tide Lords remain in contact, concentrating cult efforts to free Achilles and share his senseless gifts with the world. Cliques and factions rise and fall within the cult, feuding rarely. When conflict does arise, it overturns the entire structure of the cult. Such upheavals are carefully planned by the Tide Lords, for tumult pleases the lunatic dragon. So it kind of shows you that they're like he loves chaos, kind of like Mailforge, but in a more like the he enjoys the drama more than like the war that can happen with that. He just enjoys the drama of like oh, hey, this person is doing this and that's not okay. So it's like gossip. He's a gossip lord. Anyways, a secretive cabal, the Abyssal are impossible to understand. Yet every Telara knows the Abyssal on sight by their ornate, faceless masks. A former Abyssal himself, the faceless man of Meridian still wears his mask, and while the Guardians decry such an abomination working with the Ascended, even the Defiant wonder what their spy master is thinking beneath that polished silver. The truth is, the faceless are indeed faceless, giving up their identities in a ritual to Achilleos. Each must confront the black void where the infinity of all knowledge blends into incomprehension. They cast their true names into the darkness, cut their features away, and replace their rational minds with equal parts insanity and genius. It is tempting to underestimate the Abyssal as barking loons, but remember, Achilles keeps his promise of great knowledge and clarity of thought knowledge best forgotten, and the clarity of madness. And I think I said this story when way back when I talked about Achilles as part of the dragon lore. But basically, there was this one story that was released at one point about a boy who was studying. So he was very interested in reading and learning, and Achilles would go up his because he would study in like a tower, a library tower or something like that. This boy would, and Achilles would actually at night go and kind of stay right behind the boy who was studying and kind of just learn with him. He enjoyed just watching and learning with the boy. And that kind of tells you about how Achilles doesn't care about violence. He doesn't really care about killing. He cares more about getting. And when the boy's mother actually barged into the room at one point, that is when Achilles struck because she was interrupting his knowledge meal. So that's when he ate both the mother and the boy. And he would not have done that if she hadn't interrupted. Bad mother. No, but that kind of tells you about how, like, he really doesn't care about, sowing discord, really. He cares about, the gossip and stuff. He enjoys it, but he doesn't care about, you know, death and corruption and stuff like that. He only cares about learning. So that's pretty much it about the Abyssal, and that's it for now. I think next week is going to be about the Faceless Man itself himself. So we're going to learn a little bit more about the Abyssal through him. And I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.